You're watching the Chiefs Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Harrison Graham. It is time to unveil my final Chiefs mock draft, and of course, it's going to look a lot different this time. Following the Orlando Brown trade, Kansas City no longer has a first-round pick, but they still have 6 draft picks for 2021. Biggest needs at this point include wide receiver, cornerback, edge, center, linebacker. I think those are some areas you could add some talent in. And, of course, we use the Pro Football Network Draft Simulator as we have all draft season long. And, hey, Mock Draft 4.0, we've been pumping them out for you guys, but this is our first one since the Chiefs traded for Orlando Brown, so here are the specific draft picks. Pair of second-round picks, picked one up in the Brown trade, 58-63 overall. No third-round pick. You lost that pick as well in the trade for Brown, but you go to number 144 overall. Got a pair of fifth-round picks and then one sixth-round pick at number 207. So 6 picks to work with. We didn't do any trades on today's mock. I definitely think it's a possibility that Brett Veach will trade down at some point in the actual draft. Name a player that you want the Chiefs to draft. Who should Kansas City draft? I would probably focus on round 2 guys because those are the players you guys are going to know. Let me know who should the Chiefs draft this year. Let's jump on into it. Elijah Moore, the Ole Miss wide receiver at number 58 overall in round 2. Now, this seems fairly unlikely that Moore will fall to 58 because he's been rising up draft boards. I saw ESPN's Todd McShay say that everyone he's talked to recently has Moore as the number 4 wide receiver in this year's class, which means there's a good chance he could go in the first round. Smaller stature at 5'9", but he's versatile, can play outside, can play some slot. Really productive season at Ole Miss this past year, almost 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. Had some explosive plays for that offense as well. And I think you have to acknowledge, if you're a Chiefs fan, that there's some uncertainty at wide receiver behind Tyreek Hill. There's good depth here. Mecole Hardman, Demarcus Robinson, and Byron Pringle, they can all play. They're all good rotation receivers. But is any of those guys a true number 2 wide receiver? I'm not sure. That's why we've talked about wide receiver quite a bit over the past couple of months, and especially once Sammy Watkins officially signed with the Baltimore Ravens, because I think there's fair reasons to doubt that Kansas City has a true number 2 wideout. I think Elijah Moore has a chance to be that. I think his ceiling probably is as a very good number 2 wide receiver. He's kind of a more polished but slightly less explosive Mecole Hardman, if that makes sense. Better route runner, more versatile, not quite the top-end speed that Hardman has, but I think a more complete wideout. So I go Elijah Moore with the Chiefs' first pick at number 58 overall. The NFL Draft is tomorrow, so subscribe to Chat Sports for all 7 rounds of this year's draft, because we'll be live Thursday night for round 1, Friday night, and Saturday afternoon, all 7 rounds of the NFL Draft. The link is below, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Don't miss any of our draft coverage this year. The Chiefs' own second-round pick, number 63 overall. How about Landon Dickerson, the center out of Alabama? And we've talked about center still being an area Kansas City could target despite signing Austin Blythe, who's only on a 1-year deal. Now, Dickerson is arguably the most talented center this year, but towards ACL in December, had a prior knee surgery before that, so it's a little bit of a red flag as you project for him moving forward. But you kind of look at this and say, okay, Landon Dickerson, maybe he's ready by week 1, maybe not, but it probably doesn't matter, right? Austin Blythe is probably your center this year, and he was an above-average player last year for the Rams. You could treat Landon Dickerson as a redshirt this year. You could basically say, hey, you're going to learn. You're not going to play in year 1. You're going to sit behind Austin Blythe, soak up the NFL, continue to rehab that knee, and then in 2022, you've got your center for the next several years, barring injury. And that's the way that the Chiefs could approach this if they choose to do so. If a guy like Dickerson is there, or who's the kid out of Wisconsin Whitewater, Quinn Miners is on the board, he could be an option to treat that way as well. He's got the physical attributes. He's got the talent. The knee injuries are the only concern, but you're protected there. You have a center this year, so I think late in round 2, this is pretty good value for Landon Dickerson. Other players on the board in this range, remember the Chiefs picked at 58 and 63. Ronnie Perkins, the Oklahoma edge rusher, he's an intriguing player. Aleem McNeil, the defensive tackle out of North Carolina State. Liam Eichenberg, the Notre Dame offensive tackle. Don't think you need a tackle anymore, but he's an option. Peyton Turner out of Houston, and then Milton Williams, the defensive tackle out of Louisiana Tech. Tech. I opted for these two guys, Elijah Moore and Landon Dickerson. Get some help on offense in this regard. Type EM for Elijah Moore, LD for Landon Dickerson. What do you guys think is the better pick in round 2 of this mock draft? I think Moore would help you more early, but long term, it could actually be Dickerson. So get your votes in EM or LD. No third-round picks, so we jump to round 4 for this Chiefs mock draft 4.0. Daelin Hayes, the edge rusher out of Notre Dame, has some versatility. Played at about 270 last year, but trimmed up a little bit for his pro day, 255 or so. Wanted to run and test a little bit better, but he plays heavier than that. I think he's got some upside as a pass rusher. He can drop and play a little bit into coverage. He flashed in college, never really put it all together, and there are some injury concerns with his shoulder. He's had a nagging shoulder injury at times in college. That's a bit of a red flag there. You look at this defensive line, it's loaded on the interior. Chris Jones, Jarran Reed. You like Frank Clark still, but do you want to have either Taco Charlton or Michael Dana be your starting edge opposite of Frank Clark? I tend to think you can do better there. Now, I don't know if Daelin Hayes is the answer to do that, but maybe the approach is, okay, we'll go by rotation on the other side, right? We got 3 studs on the defensive line. We'll just go by a committee at the other defensive end spot. If you do that, get some more depth. I think Daelin Hayes is a guy who could provide more depth and a guy who could kick inside on occasion as well. I don't mind the value here in the 4th round. Chiefs videos throughout the NFL draft. Get subscribed to the Kansas City Chiefs Report. We'll have everything covered for you guys on this channel, so don't miss anything when it comes to your Kansas City Chiefs draft videos throughout the NFL draft. Zech McPhearson in round 5, number 175 overall, the cornerback out of Texas Tech. Really productive this past year, and that's against some good offenses in the Big 12. Versatile player. Played some outside, played some nickel, could probably play some safety. I think he probably projects as a nickel. I think he has the ability to maybe be a starting nickel at some point in the NFL. I think from day one, he's instantly an impact player on special teams. Look what he did, though, all over the place. 53 tackles, 4 picks, 6 pass breakups, had a couple of fumble recoveries. This guy was always around the football for Texas Tech, and that's the type of players I'm looking for, especially in the latter parts of the draft. Can you create turnovers? He was able to do that this past season in the Big 12. Now, we'll see if Kansas City decides to re-sign Bashaud Breeland or take a corner earlier on in round 2. I think right now, if you went to battle today, L'Jarius Sneed, Charvarius Ward, and Rashad Fenton would be your starting corners, but you need some depth. DeAndre Baker's a question mark. He's kind of the ultimate wild card in this secondary. Is he going to turn into something or not? But round 5, number 175 overall, Zech McPhearson out of Texas Tech. I think it's pretty good value for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's go Nick Eubanks, round 5, pick 181. Kind of struggled this year in 2020, but so did Michigan as a whole. Flashed a bit in 2019. He's a good athlete, decent blocker as well. You know, a lot of these Michigan guys, they just don't perform that well under Jim Harbaugh. Then they get to the NFL and they're better players. Here's what I know. Kansas City has the best tight end in the NFL in Travis Kelce, but he's over the age of 30, and in modern NFL offenses, you need more than one tight end. Nick Keiser was awful last year. You brought back Blake Bell. Okay, he's a tight end 3 type of player. You got a couple of guys no one's ever heard of rounding out your tight end depth chart. I think taking a guy like Nick Eubanks or someone else like a Quentin Morris out of Bowling Green on day 3, I think is intriguing to me. I would at least try to develop a young tight end. They're trying it with Nick Keiser, but I thought he had some critical errors last year in key moments. Maybe take another stab out of a guy like Eubanks late in the NFL draft. What do you guys think? Should the Chiefs draft a tight end? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Should Kansas City get a tight end in this year's draft? If you think they should, go ahead and type Y for yes. Final pick here, Joshua KAINDOH, defensive end out of Florida State. This guy was a huge recruit back in either 2016 or 17. I can't remember. It's been a few years. And it just never came together at Florida State. But a lot of guys in recent years at Florida State that were high recruits just either weren't coached well or weren't motivated enough. There's been some issues. The end of the Dabo Swinney era wasn't great. It's been troubling since then as well. athletic, not Jimbo Fisher, excuse me. Dabo Swinney's the Clemson coach. Since he left Fisher, it's been kind of a mess there. But KAINDOH's got athletic ability. 6'7", he's like 260 pounds. I think there's some upside there in the NFL as an edge rusher, even though we didn't see it flash that often at Florida State. I think in the 6th round, it's like, hey, let's go draft an athlete here in Joshua KAINDOH at 6'7", 265 pounds, and just see what happens. Worst case scenario, he flames out, right? That happens when you take players in the 6th round of the NFL draft, but I'll take a chance at upside here. The kid was either a 4 or 5-star recruit just a few years ago. All right, there you have it. 6 players grade my final Chiefs mock draft. The real deal is set to begin on Thursday night. A, B, C, D, or F. Get your votes in. Grade my final Chiefs mock. And if you need a quick reminder, well, here's who I decided to take. Elijah Moore and Landon Dickerson, the 2 round 2 selections, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss, and the center out of Alabama. Daelin Hayes, the edge inside defensive lineman hybrid there out of Notre Dame in round 4. And then round 5 and 6 here, Zech McPhearson, the nickel safety hybrid out of Texas Tech. Nick Eubanks, the round 5, number 181 overall, the tight end out of Michigan. And then finalizing this mock is Joshua KAINDOH, round 6, number 207 overall. Keep it here on the Chiefs Report as we'll have coverage during the draft.